Brent, you know we all have those days, and well, VM is smiling from ear to ear because he loves the cats. And well, we've had all the luck, the two cheetah brothers, and now we've got Miss Inkanyeni sitting up fast asleep in a tree, and VM is actually worried about her. She hasn't even twitched, not even once. But of course she is alive, so don't worry about that. This is just very typical of the leopards, to hoist themselves up into a tree. And of course, like I said earlier, they love to sleep in these big marula trees, as they have the most magnificent shade at this time of the year. But isn't this beautiful? The way she's perfectly positioned herself with no obstructions. This is lovely. And this is what everybody wants to see when they come on a safari holidays. They want to see a leopard up in a tree. But it's not as common as everybody thinks it is. I think I've seen more leopards down on the ground or sitting on termite mounds than I have seen them up in trees before. But as we move into the months when the rain comes, and so come with that the insects, they will start to sort of sleep up in these beautiful trees. It seems as though that they were made just for leopards, don't you think? But isn't she beautiful as she dangles her paws? Now, she's an older girl. She's not quite as old as Karula, but she is about 10, if I'm not mistaken. She was born in 2006. She's got, of course, Votumi, who does not seem to be here at the moment. Maybe he's just lying off into the thicket somewhere, so I'm just keeping an eye out, scanning around to make sure he doesn't make an appearance. Now, the last time I saw Inkanyeni was quite some time ago, actually, probably about a month and a half ago, and we actually saw an incredible interaction between her and Quarantine, where she was being very flirty, and well, Quarantine didn't quite understand what she was basically asking him. He's a little bit too young. There we go, VM. Are you satisfied that she's alive now, as she twitched her tail, or was that the wind?
Could be death's presence.
PM's not convinced, but I promise you, she is just so comfortable up in this tree. She is in a coma, basically. She hasn't even opened her eyes to see that we are here. She is that relaxed. I think what we're going to do, let's go forward a little bit. I think we'll get another view of her. We'll change it up a bit. But she's right up the top of a tall marula tree. Now, as she is sound asleep here, Vanita, you were wondering, how long can leopards sleep for? A long time. Oh, there we go. We've got a stretch. Hello. Good afternoon, my dear. Are you enjoying yourself? Now, Vanita, they don't sleep quite as long as a lion would sleep. They'll sleep for about 18 to 20 hours. But I would say around 16 hours, sort of average. They will take these naps. And once again, it's just not about being lazy, and I suppose we have to bring this up quite often, is that it's important for these cats, the big cats of course, to conserve energy, because if they spend most of their day running around and sort of just playing games, they really don't unfortunately have enough energy stored that will allow them to be successful when it comes to hunting. Now, I've just seen Taxon stop up a little bit away ahead. I just want to quickly chat to him. Tax for Taylor. Tax, what do you have where you are now? Is it Mantuan? Okay, copy. Just checking. I think Taxon just quickly moved out of the sighting, but he's coming back in. I thought perhaps he had the lovely son of Inkanyeni, but it doesn't seem that way. But Vatumi has been seen over the last couple of days. So I'm not too concerned. And this is typical behavior. I mean, he would be about a year old now, almost a year old. They were born in January. So he'll be getting to the point as well where he is also getting his independence. We're already seeing it with Hosana, how he likes to do his own thing. It's going to be really pretty when the sun drops a little bit more and really illuminates her. At the moment, she's just covered with a dappled light. But a good spot to be up, because I'm sure that wind is nice and cool and cooling her down as she is raised up in the tree. Now, Liam, can you have a look at that piece of fluff in her ear? Look at that long piece of hair there. Now, Dingo, you're actually wondering if that is a permanent feature of this leopard or if it's just temporary. Now, I don't think this would molt. You'll be surprised as to how hairy the cat's ears really are. And she does particularly look like she's got a long strand coming out of her ear, don't you think? I think it'll be there for most of the time. Like I said, I don't think the hair around their ear molts as much as the hair around their body does as they get their different summer and winter coats, which I'm sure she probably has lost her thicker winter coat by now. Not that there's too much of a temperature change, though. It's usually quite warm throughout the entire year in this area. But she likes that spot. She tried a different position, and I think she's just enjoying dangling her head between her paws this afternoon. And before you know it, she'll probably wake up, give us a big stretch, and come down the tree. And it doesn't look like she's got a particularly big belly. So I'm sure that this evening, on the cloudy day we're having, she's going to hopefully have a successful evening of hunting. We haven't been seeing too many plains games since we've been here. Just all the big cats and the bigger animals, but no impala. Still waiting to see one impala. So she might have to do a bit of traveling. Now we can see, look how comfortable she is. I don't know if I'd be able to do that well. I know we've tried before on very not so tall marula trees that have been pushed to the ground by an elephant. I don't know how brave I'd be to practice my leopard laying skills in a marula this tall. Now, Bree, you were actually wondering, is it possible for a leopard to lose its balance up in a tree and fall down? I'm sure it is. I'm sure if they're in a deep sleep and they decide that they want to roll over, maybe they get a bit of a fright. But you'll often see that they've wedged themselves somehow. So you can see her paws are draped over the front of that big branch, and then the rest of her body is actually draping off onto the other side. So say if she were to slip off where her rump is, she'd still be able to grab on nice and tight with her front paws. So you often see them doing that. But they're aware as they get older. Remember, she's been around for at least 10 years, so she's got ample experience on how to sit nicely and sit securely up in a tree. If it was Votumi or even Shongile and Hosana, it may be a different story. Even though they've understand trees now, they've still got a long way to go. Their muscle development won't be up there with their parents. And of course, they'll probably need to be very, very mindful when they do move around too much in those trees. But you can see she's an old expert. She's been sitting up in these marulas for years and years and years now, and she's figured out the perfect technique that works the best for her. And each leopard will have a different technique. We find they have a favorite side to lie on, or a favorite position up in the tree. And I suppose it all depends on which way the branch bends. That will determine how you can lay up on a fallen, not a fallen tree, a big tree. Now the cheetah, on the other hand, they would love to climb up on a fallen marula trees, and that's what I was hoping they were going to do. But they didn't. They were just scent marking and disappearing out of our view. Very sneaky, those cheetah. But now you can also have the opportunity to tell the difference between the two. Now, one of the main things that I'm sure you must have noticed while you were looking at the two cheetah is that they had big solid spots like you can see she has on her legs. You see how on her actual legs, you'll see they turn from rosettes into darker blotches. And then as soon as you head to the middle of her body, you start to see those rosettes developing with lovely brown center Now, cheetahs don't have that. Just big, solid black spots, and then, of course, they've got the beautiful big tear drops that come down their eyes and past their cheeks, whereas the leopard lacks those. But what they do have, and we can't see it now, though, but we might see it a little bit later, is, of course, that beautiful pearl necklace that they have around their chest. Are you going to open your eyes for us? Oh, hello. She doesn't look like she's ready to get up yet. She's just realized that the cameras are here and she better look pretty now. There we go. That's beautiful. That afternoon light catching her eyes. And back to sleep again. She's just shuffling herself around there. And even though when she drops her legs like that, did you see that most of her body didn't even move? So she's definitely well wedged into that tree. Now, Annie, you were wondering, if you were to come to the Kruger National Park, where would you have to go to see Inkanyeni? Now, her territory spans predominantly on Nkoro and Cheetah Plains, and maybe a little bit further east of that, possibly even a little bit further south, maybe just dipping into Mala Mala. But you'd have to come to the Sabi Sand, so you wouldn't go to the Kruger National Park. You'd come and stay in one of the lodges up in the northern Sabi Sands that has got traversing areas on Nkoro, Cheetah Plains, and these sectors down here. I think you could be able to see her. But remember, even if you come here, the chances of you seeing a specific animal that you want to see is very, very slim. This is only the second time that I've seen her, and I've been driving around now in the northern Sabi Sands for 3 months, almost, actually, a little bit longer than that now, 3.5 months. So it just shows you've just got to be at the right place at the right time. Look at those elephants we had earlier. We had them cross the road, and then they disappeared into a very, very thick block of vegetation. And then, of course, the same goes for those cheetah that we only had for just a couple of minutes. We just got there just at the perfect time. And that's the whole thing about safaris, is that even if you do come and you don't get to see what you wanted, it's very difficult to be disappointed. And I know people who have been coming from the USA for over 10 years to the Kruger National Park. They like to self-drive and do their own safaris, and they have never seen a leopard yet. So it just shows you, even some South Africans that have been coming to these national parks for years and years and years haven't seen a wild dog, haven't seen a cheetah. So the fact that we've seen such a variety of game in one drive is really, really, really special. And we must not take these moments for granted. Beautiful paws. We're going to try and stick here for just a little bit longer to see what Madam Inkanyeni gets up to. Perhaps she comes down the tree. We're going to send you back across to Djuma, where Brent is sitting in the middle of the quarantine open area. Welcome back, of course, and well, it's very sad to see Brent go now, but we don't want him to get lost in the darkness as he trundles around on foot and the big bad creatures start to come out. Now, of course, my name is Taylor McCurdy. I can't even say my name today. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is VM, and we are sitting with a leopard by the name of Inkanyeni. But we've had the most incredible afternoon already. We arrived starting the drive with an elephant, some monkeys. Then we came across to Cheetah Plains, and we found the 2 cheetah brothers who stuck around for just a moment. Then, of course, a beautiful big herd of elephants, an elephant bull on his own, and, well, this beautiful girl sitting up in this beautiful marula tree. Everything is beautiful today. It's wonderful, especially now that the wind is slightly picking up and cooling the day down. I must say, I enjoyed these last cool days that we did have. The heat was getting to my head, and it has definitely singed my brain a little bit, as I can't even remember what my own name and surname is these days. Maybe this cold weather will fix it, though, and I'll get back to normal. Now, she's been moving around a little bit. I'm hoping now that she's sort of not sitting as still as she was. It means that she could possibly wake up for us. Here we go. Hello, big girl. Oh, isn't that lovely? She's an incredible leopard. She's got lovely dark eyes. Don't you think she's got such nice black rings around her eyes? They really make that sort of greenish yellow color pop. Now, Lane, you're actually asking about Inkanyeni's markings. Oh, big yawn. Ah, look at those teeth. Yep, they look good. Now, it seems as though she's got 4 spots on either side of her face. So she'll be a 4-4. Now, I don't know, some people may disagree with me, but on the left-hand side of her face, she's got a tiny little spot. I don't know if you can just see it just on... if we're looking at her, it's on the right-hand side, but it's her left-hand side of the face. Is that as we can't go anymore, huh? Oh, okay. Well, if she turns her head, sorry, that's as far as we can zoom. I would count that as a spot, because I think 3. I also saw another spot on quarantine that apparently hasn't been counted. But to me, I would call it a marking and a spot. But she's gone back to, of course, her original position now. And it was also quite amazing. She's also got a pinkish nose, like Shadow. Normally with age, their nose starts to darken quite a bit. And then, of course, I suppose that as they get older again, it starts to go a little bit lighter. But her nose is fairly pink. But I do love that tuft of hair in her ear. And I can't remember noticing it the last time. I'll have to go back and have a look at photos. Oh, there we go. Beautiful big yawns. She's grooming herself now. She might go back and have a little siesta again, but I think she's going to get to the point where eventually she climbs down this tree. And if we get to see that, that will be spectacular, because then you can really get a real sense as to how strong and powerful these leopards really are. Because just as graceful as they are when they go up the tree, they can do so coming back down. And I hope you're getting some good screenshots of her doing a beautiful big yawn. Oh, that's stunning. Look at that light in her eye. Hello, beautiful girl. She's a stunning girl. She's got such a nice look about her. Hello, Tegan, who is just a mere 9 years old. We're happy to have you here this afternoon. Now, you are wondering all the way from Canada, how do we tell the leopards apart? Now, Tegan, it's got to do with a spot pattern on their face. So just above their whiskers, you can see they've got all those spots. And we use the top row and we count those spots and we make a ratio. So I would say her spot pattern is 4-4. And then you look for other things. Does she have any scars? For instance, that big hairy piece sticking out of her ear, her right ear, that's quite a nice little trait. Some of them have nicks out of their ears, and that just helps you. It is difficult, though, and don't worry, it has taken me 3 months. It's still taking me probably a little bit longer to eventually learn all the leopards on the property and all the lions and be able to tell them apart, but it just takes lots of practice. So if you look at the photos of the various cats, eventually you will start to see how different they actually look from one another. Like I said, I like the way her eyes are so dark. It almost looks like she's got a thicker black ring around her eye, and that just sort of makes her eyes pop out so nicely. Almost like the Anderson male. I've obviously only seen pictures of him, but he's got beautiful dark coloring around his eyes, which sort of really acts as such nice framing and draws you in. That's the first thing you see. Or every time I've looked at a photo of the Anderson males, I look straight to his eyes. And she sort of does that to me as well. No, don't go back to sleep. Wake up. Especially with this nice light that's coming through now. And this is a photographer's dream, having this leopard sitting so nicely up on the top of the tree, and then, of course, this golden light coming through. Now, looking at her size, she's not a tiny leopard, and I know that Aqua was wondering, is she taller or longer than Karula? I think she's a little bit bigger than Karula. Large male leopards. The biggest female I think I've seen, and even her, she was quite young still. Her name, no, I've forgotten her name. She was the daughter of Little Bush, and her father was Mashabeni. Her name was, it will come to me eventually, but she was a young girl, and she was actually getting quite big. Kaigilia, there we go. Her name was Kaigilia, and for a moment I completely forgot. And she looked so much like her father. She was quite a stocky leopard. And there was also another leopard named Warthog Wallow. She was beautiful, an older girl, but also if you looked very quickly and you spotted her on the move, you'd often call it in as a male leopard sighting. And then you'd see her, and she was just broad at the shoulders and a little bit stockier than the average female. But she's a decent size. I would say she's bigger than Karula, but not much, just a little bit. Isn't that beautiful shot there? And I'm all about, of course, these different types of shots. So take screenshots of unusual things, of her paw dangling from the tree. That's beautiful framing by VM. And hopefully we will be able to give you a couple more shots like this. But for now, let's go across to Evia, who has apparently got a scene with Impala, and it looks as though it's like a painting. She is just the most obliging leopard in the whole of the Sabi Sand. How often do we get to see a leopard with not one obstruction, not one branch in her face, not anything, perfectly sitting facing towards the golden light? This is honestly just exceptional. And she keeps moving around, so she's continued her yawning and her grooming, but she has now shifted back into her favorite position. I really, really hope as the sun starts to disappear behind the clouds, she's going to change her mind and climb down for us. Doesn't she look so peaceful up there? I wish I could join her. I think I could probably go and sleep on the tree, the branch just next to her, and it's going to be a nice spot. What do you think, VM? Do you think I could curl myself up on the left? And there we go. I think that's nice. Somewhere around there. I could probably wedge myself into. I probably wouldn't do as good of a job as what she would do, though. I think she's most graceful up there. And I love how her legs are just dangling off the other side of the branch. It's so funny. Tail on one end, back legs down on the left-hand side of the tree. I love that. Isn't that just beautiful? Now, I have a question for all of you. Just looking at her paws like this, how would you tell the difference between a cheetah and a leopard paw if you just had a look at the paw? So send your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv, or if you have a Twitter account, you can hashtag Safari Live with your answers. And I'd love to hear. It's just nice to hear everyone else's thinking, and we'll see who's been paying attention. But like I said, how do you tell the difference between, or how would you identify that was a leopard and not a cheetah? Besides the fact that it's all the way up on the tippy top of the tree. But there's some obvious differences. Back to sleep. She keeps fooling us. And we keep getting excited every single time she moves around. Hello, James Rose. Now you're wondering, how long are a leopard's claws? Wonderful question. I have absolutely no idea. I've never found a fully grown leopard claw before, and I've never actually had the opportunity to see a leopard up close. I would imagine they're quite big, though. And we saw the lion claws this morning. I don't know if you were watching. One of them had their claws out, and we zoomed in on that, and they're quite big. Ooh, I'm trying to think in centimeters, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters. Maybe that's even a bit long, something like that. But James, I'll have to do a little bit of research and see if there's perhaps a measurement in one of my mammal behavior books. Maybe I've got a really good mammal behavior book. Perhaps the length will be in there. Otherwise, I shall just have to ask the internet a little bit later. Occasionally, it's filled with very helpful things. Come on, girl, please wake up for us. We want to see what you're going to go and do. Not budging just yet. Now, hello Claire, you were wondering if any of the big cat's tracks are retractable. Now pretty much all of them are, except the cheetah. The cheetah is the only one of the cats that has its claws out all the time, and that's because the cheetah uses their claws for something a little bit more different. So we know that cheetah can run exceptionally fast, but in order to be able to run at those speeds and be able to turn at any given moment, you need obviously good balance that would come and help with your, come from your tail, sorry. And then of course, if you've got your claws out all the time, that helps give you extra traction. Whereas a leopard that doesn't run as fast as a cheetah, and for as long as a cheetah can run for, and the same goes with a lions, a serval, a caracal, African wildcat. They all keep their claws hidden away because they will use them when they need to hold on to their prey. So once they've caught whatever they're going for, they dig those claws into their prey and hold on to them like knives. And that's very important. So different uses of different nails. So if you look at I'm not going to give the answers away, but remember I did ask the question about how would you tell the difference between a leopard paw and a cheetah paw. Well, seeing as though what we've just discussed, that should help you all out. But remember, send your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv if you'd like to email us, or hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and send those answers through. So Susan and Amelia have answered my question, and they say that the way you could tell the difference between a leopard and a cheetah foot is that just by looking at the spots, because a cheetah's spot is completely black. But look what happens as the spots reach lower down on a leopard's foot. They also become spots. They're not really rosettes anymore. So it's a difficult one. But another way that you could tell is just by their claws. So like I just mentioned, the cheetah aren't able to retract their claws. They stay out all the time. And their feet almost look a bit more like a dog's foot. Not quite as robust, slightly slender, like a leopard footprint, even more slender than a leopard footprint, but you would see the big black claws sticking out. And that's probably the easiest way, because the spots very much look like the same when you get down to the spots lower down on the leopard's body. And you can see the rosettes are really just around the bigger parts of this leopard's body, around its back, around its stomach, a couple on its neck. But even as it goes towards its neck, they start to fade as well and just turn into complete black spots, not splots. Oh, it's beautiful just listening to the wind. It's so quiet and calm. Hello, Valicia, who is a new viewer. Look at that. Just as you asked this question, it's like Inkanyeni knew, and she's looked up to say hello. Now, you were wondering if their spot patterns are like our fingerprints. You are indeed correct. Every leopard will have a unique spot pattern on the side of their face, but even the pattern on their coat, I don't think you'll find two of the same leopards with exactly the same spots. They've all got a different pattern. My favorite pattern of all time, though, is, of course, and you're all probably going to say this exactly at the same time as I do, is Tingana's smiley face that he has on his left shoulder. Is it his left shoulder, View? I think it's his left shoulder. one of his shoulders, I've forgotten now, but it is the most amazing thing in the whole world. And Felicia, hopefully, as I'm saying this, somebody is sharing you a picture of what his smiley face spot looks like. It is amazing, and once you see it, you can't undo it. And that is the first thing that I look for when I see him, just to make sure. Isn't she beautiful? That is such an amazing shot of her up in this tree. What an obliging girl. She seems to love the camera just as much as Quarantine loves the camera, who is a male leopard, just in case you were wondering. And back to sleep again. She sort of looks like me if I happen to have an afternoon siesta. Sort of wake up, stretch, maybe have a drink of water, and then go back to sleep again for a little bit. Look at this yellow-billed kite. I wonder if it's going to land in the tree. There. Go, VM, go! Here's a beautiful yellow-billed kite that flew above us, and I wondered if it wanted to land in this marula tree, but I think as it came towards us, it realized, oh, no, that's occupied, there's a leopard in there. So it's now opted for somewhere else. Oh, here it is. I wonder if it's seen. Maybe it's just scanning the tree, maybe scanning the ground to see if this leopard doesn't perhaps have a kill of some sort. Because it's going round and round and round. And that's a possibility. Yellow-billed kites are sort of low-flying raptors. So they would take an opportunity to scavenge if there was one available. And now Inkanyeni is watching that bird very, very carefully. I think she's also wondering, what are you doing? And she'd catch it. If that bird were to try and land where she's sitting, she'd go for it. Here we go. Now stand. Oh, big stretch. Bringing those claws out. Finding another comfortable spot again. Oh, she swapped sides with her legs now. That's nice. That is so stunning. And I know I've used stunning, beautiful, incredible, amazing, spectacular so many times this afternoon, but I don't know how else do you describe this leopard. I'm almost speechless. I feel as though my words really don't do her beauty justice. Rebecca says she is a schmodel. Schmodel or schmodel? She's a beautiful model. You see, she's becoming a little bit more active now that she's sort of just scanning around, keeping an eye out for anything that could potentially come walking this way. Ooh. VM, what's your answer? And then I shall relay.
I don't know, I like them all.
Tingana.
I like Tingana, I like Arathusa, I like Quarantine.
And female leopard?
Again, I like them all.
So Raisa was wondering what is or who are VM's favorite male and female leopard, and VM's response is he likes them all, but I know deep down inside Tingana is his favorite leopard because he gets so excited when he gets to see Tingana. You must have one favorite female leopard though. You don't have any?
I think this one.
So VM's exact words is that he digs this one. So he loves Inkanyeni. And I mean, you can see why. If this is the first time that you're ever seeing a leopard, this would probably be the best sighting you've ever had. Well, the only sighting that you've ever had. But if I could have a wish that everybody who came on safari could see a leopard like we're seeing a leopard right now, oh, you'd all just be too lucky. And I wish that you could do that, because I've had some horrible leopard sightings where you just see a tip of an ear or a tail. And I suppose that's one of those things. But we're going to say goodbye to Inkanyeni now. I think she's going to have a bit more of a rest, and we're going to see what else we can find, seeing as though we're having so much luck this afternoon. Well,